So let's introduce ourselves. My name is Luke Reece, and I'm a theater producer, spoken word poet, a playwright, an artist educator, and an Italian soccer fan. Oh, this side. There we go. And you, Daniele, who are you?
Oh, that's a tough question. No, I'm Daniele Bartolini. I am an Italian immigrant. So you like Italian soccer, and I'm Italian. You're also half Italian. So
yes, I am.
That connection. And I run a theater company called Dopolavoro Teatrale. I'm a huge fan of immersive, participatory work. I love audiences, and I call my practice audience-specific theater.
Great. And together, we are the co-dramaturgs and co-curators for We Were, We Are, We Will Be, originally conceptualized by you. You came up with the idea. Talk about that, and then talk about why you chose me.
Oh, wow. Okay. So the idea came about, I think, as I was walking back in my condo building, right in just as the pandemic has started, back in Italy, mostly when Italy was affected, because I have most of my family here, there, and I just felt displaced. I just felt that I was, on the other side of the world, and I was worried for what was going on. And I also felt completely trapped because my practice is about, audiences exploring the city and also being very close to performers and interacting with them, which is, pretty much was the most dangerous thing that you can do. So that kind of like triggered me in exploring the possibilities for live performance in the times of pandemic and how we can reactivate a sense of community and an artistic dialogue, I would say, between the audiences and the artist. And I was really interested in doing, there needed to be some sort of like collective feeling to this creation. So I was not interested in bringing necessarily my voice artistically out there, but I was mostly interested in bringing together a team of artists that would create a collection of responses to this very strange time that we're all living. And that's affecting us a lot, especially in our industry. We can't do what we love and what we know how to do, which is also okay to take a little time to reflect. And that's exactly I would say the main thing about this project is the reflection that can come from the pandemic. So the past, looking at the past, looking at our present, and trying to shape a future together as a community again, with the two essential parts of the game, which are the artist and our beloved audiences.
So then I get an email from Laura Nanny at Summerworks, saying, hey, do you know this guy, Daniele Bartolini of DLT? And I was like, yeah, I've seen him around. I've seen him around the Summerworks scene. I've seen the shows when I was a Dorager, been led through different parts of Toronto by strangers. And she gave me a bit of a rundown of what you wanted to do, like you just said now, and wanted to see if I was interested in having a conversation and coming on board as a curator. And I was really excited that you chose me. I think, people see me mostly as a theater producer. That's kind of my main title, if you could call it that, out in the scene. So for someone to really see myself as an artist as well, and to want to have my voice in that discussion was great. And also the Italian side of it, I'm surrounded by my Blackness all the time. There's no escaping it in my art, in my life, especially working for Obsidian. But being able to explore or be closer to the Italian side and to have that connection on an artistic level as well really excited me. And it's been great.
Yeah, I'm very happy that we got to introduce. I had just a feeling at a certain point. I've been following your work. I've been seeing the stuff that you've done artistically a lot. Your work as a poet. I mean, I knew also your work as a producer, but I just said that sometimes you have this, you can't quite explain. You say, okay, I think this would be an incredible collaboration. And again, collaboration is the key of this project, collaborating with the artists, collaborating with the, as curators, and also collaborating with Canadian Stage and Summerworks, bringing all of our efforts together in this moment that probably were weaker than, in other times, and, present to an audience some content to experience in this time that can help us to cope this, what we're going through right now.
Yeah, I remember, I brought a bunch of names to the table, a lot of which you already had, and are a part of this. Eponine was one that came to mind right off the top, along with AC Mensa. A number of the 10 that we have were names that we hadn't even discussed, but that we both thought of as artists. And then we made our final decisions in a park, as I guess most people are right now. Is having these meetings in a park, and one of the artists, O'Shane Howard, with his installation, The New Office, explores businesses using parks for their practice. And we were kicking around a soccer ball, which was great. And I've never had a meeting where I just got to kick around a soccer ball in a park and then discuss a vision of a project like that. And finally coming down to these 10 artists, 3 looking at the past being presented digitally, 4 in the present, where the audience is asked to actually leave their home and to go and experience something and to witness this. And then 3 exploring the future, where not only they're leaving their homes to go and experience this work, but there's also a participatory element to it. And this idea of the audience slowly returning to the theaters, or slowly returning to live performance and engaging performance. And that's something that really connected with me when you were talking about the project initially, and this idea of taking those first steps, because it's going to be scary. I remember when I was first buying groceries during the pandemic, and how something that was a part of my everyday life before turned into this big event. So how do we acknowledge the fact that this is still a big event, but make the audience feel safe and cared for, along with the artists throughout the process, and easing our way to what will culminate in these 3 future presentations on August 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. In the work that I do, I like to make sure that audiences and artists are cared for, and I think that that's been a part of all of the conversations we've had, both from Summerworks and Canadian Stage, whether it's COVID guidelines, whether it's accessibility, or it's just making sure that the artist's vision is properly supported in those things, can support each other, and not limit one another.
So I'm going to ask you a question, Luke.
Okay.
If we're looking at the pandemic, is there something? Yeah. I'm sure something that that changed your creative process. But what is that you find exciting about that? Because whenever there's a bit of a crisis, if you're able to see it, there's also an opportunity, right?
I've been, I guess, off the top of the quarantine. Not to go into this too much, but I was competing in a Instagram Live talent show for Serge Ibaka. And I was writing these new pieces, these new poems, really quickly in response to the moment right now. So it was the idea of urgent creation happened right off the top. It was like I would write a poem, perform it, and then the next week I would have to have a fully formed new piece that still talked about what we're going through now, but wasn't repetitive with the last one. So I was challenged as a creator to keep updating and changing my work as also new information was coming to us, right? I think that's the challenge right now, is when you're creating and you're creating something that is supposed to be sent in the present or explore the present, it changes day to day, and the context in which we're creating continues to change. I remember I was asked to write a piece for the Canadian Theatre Review the morning of May 25th, and it was supposed to be about, how do theaters respond to COVID? And then later that night, George Floyd is murdered, and it completely changes the context in which I'm exploring this piece. And then it becomes a piece that I've written about, Black companies posting black squares, and how do we hold theaters accountable? So the art has to be urgent and has to shift with the times. And that's been a test and I've seen myself grow as a writer in this time, and how I incorporate those things in different ways and keep it fresh, keep it exciting, adding new things to the creative conversation instead of reiterating the same ideas is a challenge, but also definitely an opportunity. And I think that's also why I was drawn to this, is that these artists were responding urgently in the moment and exploring, right? We're in SummerWorks Lab, so some of these artists are trying things out that they haven't had an opportunity to before, or they didn't have the space to before. And even like me getting to curate this, like that's a something that I don't think I would be doing in this moment if we weren't in the situation that we were. And what about you? Same question to you, Daniele. I mean, you talked about how the theater you liked to do before is the most dangerous thing, or became the most dangerous thing a person could do for several months. How does it feel to kind of enter back into that space, and how is it different?
I honestly love it. Like since the very start, at the moment, that I left my home country, I feel that I was really drawn into embracing somehow the unknown. And I think that lots about my practice is really, going in this voyage of exploration, which is just life. And when life, presents you these challenges, I was supposed to open, a brand new show that was canceled. A few of them were canceled, like, it happened to all of us. But then I felt this new urge and necessity of expressing myself somehow and exploring really the limits of what we can do. And immediately I was so fascinated by this idea. Okay, what can performance look like in the time of the pandemic? What performance at a distance can look like? How can you find an engagement in the body of the spectator that can, that you can engage with? How can you create an artistic dialogue again? Because it's really the thing that I love the most about doing live events is this, to the body of the spectator and the body of the performer that are somehow encountering. So how can we explore that, right, through a variety of disciplines, and providing, with I think something that was incredibly beautiful is that you felt that there were artists that maybe some of them, they were a bit lost. They didn't know, how to react. And with this commission, lots of them, they were so focused and they found a way to respond. So that's something that it felt like a gift. And I'm very happy. About that.
Yeah, just the fact that we're able to not only provide ourselves with some artistic outlet, but these artists, and those have been my favorite parts of the conversations with them. Early on, when we were first asking some of these artists who we hadn't met before to be on board, and they just accepted the proposal and came on with an open, creative mind, and then even now, continuing to have conversations where artists are like, "Yo, I've been meaning to do something. Like I've been waiting to do something. This is finally the opportunity to do it." And that's when you know that their offering is going to be that's that much more special, because it's the desire for the artist to put out something, to make a statement, to engage with an audience. These artists, they're focused, they're putting in their work. There's a lot of thought and care going into it, and I know that most of it's sold out right now, but if you can get your hands on tickets to see some of these, the digital offerings, of course, those ones are still available. I believe a couple of the in-person ones as well, but you're going to experience something that has a lot of time and a lot of work and a lot of energy went into in a really beautiful way. And you know what? This is just the starting of something. We don't even know. It's the SummerWorks Lab. We don't know where this could go from here with any of the artists' work, with our curatorial relationship. I think there's a lot of new opportunities, new beginnings coming from this, and it's nice to be able to feel that it's been a while, since we've been able to really look forward in the arts industry and think, you know what, there's some cool stuff coming up. We're not just coping anymore with what's happening. We're responding. We're adapting, and that's really exciting to me. So thank you to all of the artists for your work. Thank you to Daniele for bringing me on board and to SummerWorks and Canadian Stage. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, Luke. It has been an incredible journey. As you said, this is the beginning, so let's see what's coming next for us. I'm very excited as well. And I would just like to say that probably it's a bit of a statement, right? This project, that the artists are present. We're here, and we want to connect with you.